Welcome to Extreme BPM. We do this Tuesdays and Fridays. That is 8 p.m. East African time. That's when we talk to people that make the music. But always make sure you make a date with us. That is Monday through Friday on the E-Jazz Mix Show, because there we get to explore, play a lot of music from amazing musicians across the world. And we are not limited by genre, as we always say. But that's when you get to discover a lot of new music. That is on the E-Jazz Mix Show, Monday to Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. East African time. But Tuesdays and Fridays is we get to sit down with some of those musicians on that we get to play on the E-Jazz Mix Show, and then we get to talk about some of the music we just played or some of the projects that they have out. And today on the show, we had ironically the first song we had on the show was "Chasing Your Breakthrough," right?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Yes, and we talked about that, and then you talked about the plan of having a whole entire project and the reason why you're making music
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
how this journey has been for you. But amazingly, the album is by the time guys you listen to this, the album is out, and we have Kat Barron back on the show. Welcome to the show. How have you been since the last time we had Chasing My Breakthrough? We've had other singles on the show, but how have you been?
Yeah, hello, Mark. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's been a crazy journey because when I released Chasing My Breakthrough, that was my second single, sorry.
Yeah.
And now I've released five singles and now the album. So it's taken me a long time to get the confidence to release music and to release an album. But it's a bit like buses. You kind of wait a long time for a bus and then five come all at once. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but it's been a very, very exciting whirlwind. I've learnt a lot. It's been great to have feedback from people all around the world. I think that's the beauty of streaming. You get people all over the world listening to your music, and that is amazing. Looking at where people have been streaming and listening from, my kids are like, "Oh, mum, they've been listening literally from all over the world." I was like, "Yeah, that's amazing." So yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
it's been a very exciting journey.
And how has it been that, because well, when you started making this music, you decided to share your mental health journey through that, and that can be very, scary at the start when when you're having to put yourself out there and put that into the music later on, later on putting it into the music. But how has that journey been for you?
It has become easier. I think when I released my first single, which was Begging You to Go, I was absolutely terrified. I was aware of some artists doing the same thing, but not many. But as I've continued to do this process, it gets easier and easier. And the more messages of support I get from people saying how my music has made them feel less alone has made me more determined to continue and to carry on. And also the way that my children be like, "Oh, mum, we're so proud of you." That in itself is a reason to carry on. And I've started doing a mental health in music course. And one of the things that it has mentioned is how in the music industry, there is quite a big stigma in mental health. And one of the ways that you can reduce stigma in the music industry is by singing about mental health, if that is something that you suffer with. So reading all these different things in this course has further highlighted to me that I am doing the right thing. And it hasn't been easy. There are lows, obviously, but there are highs as well. And it has been very therapeutic for me and also very satisfying to know that other people have benefited from knowing that they are not alone, that there are other people in this situation, and also giving hope that it will get better. Because if you seek the support and the therapy and the medication that you require, then you can and you will get better. There is hope for recovery for sure.
And speaking of like when you're speaking like probably your personal experience in sharing your journey and
Mhm.
being open to put that into the music for the rest, you're putting it out in the world for anyone to listen in. But for you, in as you said, as you keep doing this, it keeps being a little bit easier to share. But do you battle between how much to share and versus, not making it mostly about you so that it can help someone else out there, so that you leave like gaps in between that someone else can fill in for themselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there are obviously things that I don't want to share. So I share what I want to share. Um, but also, like you said, everybody's situation is different. So if I share stuff that is too particular to me, I think it makes it harder for other people to relate. So my album is a journey. So it talks about, for me, diagnosis of OCD, but this could be diagnosis for any mental health condition. So it doesn't have to be OCD. People get diagnosed with different mental health conditions. And then it talks about anxiety and it talks about loneliness. Now, again, those are things that people who battle with mental ill health may well feel. So, again, they can relate to that. The album then talks about CBT, which stands for cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a form of therapy which mostly treats which mostly treats, sorry, OCD, but can be used for other forms of mental ill health. And it's just basically it's showing that help is very important in beating this battle, be it therapy, which I highly recommend. It literally transformed my life, but also things like medication, which I also have, but I don't talk about in the album. And then it talks about how you can maintain good mental health, how you can continue to recover, and how you can continue to look after yourself, which are things that are vitally important in maintaining good mental health. Things like self care, things like going out in nature or having some time for yourself, things like reaching out to people when you need to, because there is no shame in asking for support. It's actually incredibly important. So, whilst this album is it's kind of my journey, it is a journey that I think lots and lots of people can relate to if they have gone through similar things. And the aim is to give hope, hope that things can get better and hope that things will get better.
And for people listening in, because I remember we've had discussions about, for example, mental health, even with the colleagues I work with also at the same time, and they always, for someone listening in, what would you define as OCD?
So, OCD is very misunderstood. And again, this was one of the reasons why I wanted to release a song about it. So, I don't know if you've ever heard of the expression a little bit OCD.
Yeah.
But it is an expression that is used a lot, and a lot of people use it to describe if they like things being neat and tidy or in a certain order. In fact, that's not actually true because there is no such thing as being a little OCD. You either have OCD or you're not, or you don't. Also, those people who like things neat and tidy in a certain order, if they don't experience extreme anxiety and compulsions and intrusive thoughts, if they're not in order, then that's not OCD. That's just being tidy, and that's okay. Also, a lot of people, myself included, I mean, I'm quite messy. I'm getting better, but I'm actually quite messy. So I go completely against this stereotype anyway. For me, my OCD is predominantly intrusive thoughts, um, and compulsions to neutralize these intrusive thoughts. So, yeah, OCD is very misunderstood. And like I said, this is why I wanted to release my first song called Begging You to Go.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because I remember I've been we've joked around, and they say that probably I have OCD, but except I don't have the intrusive thoughts or anxiety and all that comes with it.
Mm.
But if something is not if something is not clean, or a place that is a bit untidy, I I will not be comfortable though. And sometimes, people will tell me, oh, overlook that and stuff, and I'm like, I can't, because I just saw it already, so I'll keep thinking about it. And so they always say, "I know you have OCD or something like that." I'm like, probably, but uh, I haven't grown to the point where I then it brings in other thoughts, or the
Mhm.
anxiety that comes with it. It's just that when I see it, I'm like, I'm withdrawn already, so I'm like, ah, no, I'm not dealing with that. So I like move on, and stuff like that. So sometimes people, I think, misunderstand that most of the time,
Mhm.
being tidy and having obsessive compulsive disorder,
Mhm.
which is OCD. But interestingly, there's an artist that I've had on that is putting out music regularly on the show, from Australia, and he is writing. He is dealing. He's more of empowering himself because I think he has ADHD,
Yep,
and
I
now
do as well.
he. So he's like putting channeling that into music that he's putting out, and he's putting out music regularly, like almost every 2 weeks, putting out music this year,
Wow.
this whole
Wow, that's
entire year.
impressive. Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
and he produces and he writes and he does all that himself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
and he talks about how he's dealing with ADHD, and how, instead of looking at the bad part of it, he looks at maybe how he can use it as a superpower when he's creating, and all that. I think having conversations like that, and and helping people understand more about what the music sometimes is about, I think is because issues to do with mental health, a lot of people usually think it's dealing with addiction, dealing with this, dealing with
Mm,
these obvious, cases of, because if you're supposed because mental health is something that is internal, so it's always hard for
yeah.
people to understand that. For example, how you described how OCD is for you, and
Mm,
there are Benjamino, who is called Benjamino from Australia, has
mhm,
ADHD.
mm,
When you say I'm trying to share my mental health journey, sometimes people go quickly for, oh, are you dealing with any addiction? Are you dealing with any,
mm,
things that they are always looking for something
mm,
physically out that they can easily point to and say, oh, that's what you're dealing with, drug addiction or alcohol,
mhm.
all these other things. Yet the journey is much bigger than that. There's still
Absolutely, absolutely,
depression, all these other things that come along.
absolutely. Yeah, it's there are so many ways of stereotyping and assuming. And one thing that I've noticed releasing music is that when you say that you are releasing music about about mental ill health, I think more people try and take advantage of you, and you have messages saying, "Hey, do this and do that." And I know a lot of artists have a problem where people do kind of not treat you in the best way, but just because I have difficulties like OCD and I have ADHD as well and anxiety, I am now at a point in my life where I am very, very assertive and very sure of myself. And, you know, I've never had any of the problems that you've mentioned before. It's just been, it's been purely just mental health, as in thoughts and difficulty managing those thoughts. So yeah, people have assumptions, but I think it's really important for artists that actually physically and mentally live this day to day, that they share their journeys and they share what it's really about, um, to try and make people feel less alone, and also to maybe, Mark, to encourage other artists to do the same,
Yeah.
because I know that mental ill health is a huge issue in the music industry for so many reasons. A lot of people worry about their image. They think that if they share about what they're going through, it's going to reduce their streams or it's going to reduce their fan base. I honestly don't care about that. I think I'm coming into this a bit later, finally. So I'm not bothered about that. I just want people to feel comfortable in their own skin, and if I can just help in a tiny little way to do that, then I absolutely will do. And also when, things like, kind of rejection is a big thing in the music industry when you kind of try and pitch to playlists or you pitch to sync or you pitch to radio stations, there is a lot of rejection involved, which can trigger mental ill health and not very nice thoughts. But again, this is why I released this because I've been through that as well, and actually, it's part of the music industry. The music industry can be really tough, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just one of those things. It's standing up to something that you have dealt with, standing up and saying, "I am a warrior. I am a mental health advocate who has dealt with all this. Yeah, I am still here doing the thing that my mental ill health tried to avoid me from doing, tried to stop me from doing. And I am here being a voice for lots of people who are struggling, who need a bit of hope that things can get better." And I'm like, look, things aren't perfect, but they're an awful lot better than they used to be. And I think that's really important. And I admire that artist that you were saying who talks about ADHD. I mean, that's basically my whole second album to be fair. The entirety, because I was diagnosed quite late with that as well. I mean, that's a whole different story. But yeah, I love artists that do that as well. So yeah, fair play to them.
Yeah, and in the process of making this album, uh, did you learn what did you learn about yourself, or even when you're sharing this, when you're pulling up from all these experiences you've had and the journey and where you're at right now, what has been like, what has surprised you, but what have you learned about yourself too?
I've learnt a lot about myself. I think first of all, I have learned that revisiting some of the stuff that I've been through actually hasn't been as bad as I thought. I put this off for so long because I thought it would be quite triggering, but actually, it hasn't been as bad. I think one of the reasons is that I did a mental health course 3 years ago, and I realized that when I did that, I didn't feel as I thought I was going to feel. I actually felt very calm, and I thought, wow, this is clearly an indication of how far I've come. So actually, I think now is potentially the time to share my story and use it as a way to encourage others. So I've learnt that actually I am able to do that first and foremost. Secondly, I think I've learnt how to be more resilient. Resilience in the music industry is vital. A lot of people like myself come into it with low resilience, and then with the rejections and the competition, long hours, for me, self-doubt, all this kind of stuff, it does teach you a lot about yourself. It kind of makes you think, am I ever going to be able to push through this and do this stuff? And the answer is, well, absolutely. In my case, yes. So I've learnt that I'm more resilient than I thought. Um, I need to be brave and share things that other people can relate to. And also, thirdly, I've learnt that it can make a massive difference. And actually, if you show who you are as an artist and are honest with maybe a little cheeky hint of personality. I mean, my kids don't think I'm very funny, but yeah, if you share
I
kind of
mean,
your
Instagram says different, but go ahead.
yeah, my kids say I'm really embarrassing, but yeah, that's fine. We just gloss over that. Um, but yeah, I think it's proof also to me. I've learnt that you can talk about serious things with a hint of, I say humour. I mean that's debatable, but you can talk about it in a positive way. It doesn't need to be like, oh, I'm suffering today. It's really bad. You can add that humour because I think that makes it more relatable, and people can kind of relate to you a bit more if you do that.
Yeah, because the conversation is a bit heavier. So if you
Yeah,
help lighten it up while delivering
exactly.
the
Yeah.
same message at the same time, it's people usually catch on that. But because it's already it's the reason why I think a lot of people even run away from like sharing experiences of what they're going through. Like I'm always like I'm always like one who has to deal with things when they happen. So if I'm unhappy about something, I'll talk about it then. I'm not
Absolutely.
supportive of the idea of, oh, I'm angry, I'm going to keep this and then I'll share it when I'm ready. No, I feel like at that moment, if I talk about it, then I don't have to sit with it and think about it and, start affecting something else that is not supposed to be, affected by this situation today. And sometimes people have difficulty sharing that. People have difficulty sharing what they're feeling or their experiences, or what is triggering for them, so that it doesn't happen again with people in their
Mhm.
life, for example. But you talked about earlier on, talked about your kids happy about what you're doing, and how other people are following the journey. Can you
Mhm.
also talk to the importance, because I've seen you share about communities that are supportive. For example, I saw a while ago you're talking about some communities that were
Yeah, yeah.
supportive even in encouraging you putting out music. And can you speak to the importance of such entities and how they were helpful along your journey?
Oh, community is massively important. Now, I would mention some, but if I mention some and forget the others, I'm gonna get really embarrassed, and people are gonna get upset. Um, I think community in whatever form it takes is massively important because for me, it's a sense of belonging. It's a sense of belonging, understanding, and support. And honestly, Mark, having these communities, which can be in the form of songwriting groups online or on Instagram, for example, or organizations um, that support mental health in music. I mean, it's massively important, and I'm in a lot of organizations that support independent artists as well. And I think with these support groups and community groups, it's just lovely because I don't think anybody understands what it's like to be an independent artist more than independent artists. The highs, the lows, the self doubt, the disappointment on release day when you don't necessarily get the streams or any streams. I know people that have had none, and
Yeah.
it's just lifting them up and saying, "Oh, I've listened to your song," and people reaching out on social media and saying, "Hey, I've had nobody listen to my song today on release day, and I'm feeling quite down about it." And then everybody coming together and saying, "Hey, I've listened to it 5 times and it's great, and I've added it onto a playlist." So community is vitally important to stop you from being alone, because I feel like I've found my people. I've spent many years feeling that I was a bit of an outcast. I was a bit different to everybody else, which is true. Um, thinking things in different ways, approaching things in different ways. But actually, these communities have taught me that being different is great. It helps you stand out. It helps people warm to you a little bit. And also in my job as a music teacher, I think the kids like it that I'm a little bit crazy. Um, I think it makes you seem human. Um, yeah, so communities and support networks are massively important for anybody in any walk of life. But I honestly am so grateful for the support and the support groups doing music, and things like sharing my songs online with others, checking in to see if I'm okay, um, resharing my song links. It just means a lot. Absolutely. So yeah, it's massively important.
Yeah, and talking about the album, what is the title of the album?
So the album is called Refocus. It's not called Tea Bags. It's that would be a great
I was
album title.
wondering though. I was like,
Yeah, I mean,
I thought in the parentheses there is tea bags.
that would be that I mean, I might have to change the plans for my next album. I mean, that would be incredible. It could be like sponsored by tea brands. How cool would that be? Anyway,
Yeah,
so I digress. It's called Refocus.
refocus.
And yes, Refocus. And the reason why it's called Refocus is because it is a term used to treat So it's a term used in cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's known as the 4 Rs. There's, I can't remember them now. There's um, relabel, reattribute, revalue, and refocus. And so this is one of them. So basically, refocusing is when you um, focus your attention away from the distressing and intrusive thoughts onto better, more positive ones. And I think the title describes the album really, really well because there's 10 tracks and the first four, I wouldn't say they're depressing, but they are focusing more on the turmoil, the the difficulties, the negative parts of it. And then you got track 5, which is called CBT, which is kind of the big moment where things shift and things change. And doing the therapy helped me to refocus those bad thoughts. And then track 6 to 10, as you're here, um, there is a very different sound to them. It's not like, oh, things are really difficult, things are consuming me. It's more like, okay, I'm going through this, but I'm going to use the things that I've learned in my therapies and techniques, and I can make things better. It's not saying that things are going to be perfect all the time because they're not, but it's showing that there are ways and means of using techniques, self care, breaks, and all sorts of things to refocus your attention to something more positive. And that's the whole point of the album.
Yeah, but even with the songs where I feel like even with the songs that you've already put out already, uh, you even when you're talking about stuff, you don't make it like it doesn't sound like a sad song. It's still more like upbeat and uh, yes, the message is in there. It's not lost. It's not lost in there, but it still doesn't create like a slumber mood or where someone is like listening to it while like like where there's that meme where someone is listening to something and then the tears are like rolling over and then they're listening in. So it's like you're listening to this that you describing your experience and what you're going through and how you're dealing with it, but it's still more the music kind of makes a soft landing for it.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted, Mark, was for having people around the world to just literally sit in a corner with 15 buckets of ice cream, tissues, just oh my goodness. But I did just, I mean, feel free to do that if anybody wants to, but that's not the intention. Um, I think the whole point for me was to use. So I produced the tracks as well. My friend Will was mixed and mastered them and kind of added a few pointers into the production, but it's been me who's produced them. And I wanted to tell the story not just through the lyrics and the melody, but the production as well. So I think, I mean, if anybody listens to the album, for example, track 2 is Anxiety Strikes, and at the end it talks about, well, it talks about anxiety, but the actual production is the thing that shows what it's like to have a panic attack, because I'm using the instrumentation and the musicality and the production. I don't need to kind of be like, oh, woe is me, I need to have 15 buckets of ice cream, because I don't think that that necessarily makes people want to listen more. Does that make sense? So it's trying to strike the balance of making it
Yeah.
accessible and people wanting to listen to it. If that makes sense?
Yeah, the topic is already heavy, so
Exactly.
making
Well,
them
exactly.
make
Yeah.
making everything already 10 times heavier is
Yeah, let's just go easy a bit on the heaviness. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, you're like falling back into what you're like dealing with the situation and then everything else is pushing you back to to where you're trying to get from. So which is amazing. So you say that the album has 10 tracks, right?
Album has 10 tracks, yes. After much
Which
deliberation and swapping and is this the right one? And albums, singles, sorry, I can't speak today. Tracks where, so tracks where I kind of wrote them, say, a couple of years ago and thought, are they still relevant? And then it's like, yes, they are, because it helps tell the story. So yeah, there's 10 there. After much deliberation, there are 10 tracks.
Yeah, and how many did you write in the middle of the night? Because I've seen you like trying to make up songs in the night. What?
Well, like you said about that artist in Australia, I also have ADHD, which for me, as difficult as it can make life, if you channel it into something positive, as a songwriter, it can be really quite powerful. So I've woken up in the middle of the night several times with fully formed songs in my head. So Alone with My Mind was one. That's track 3 on the album. And yeah, I was overthinking and I was anxious and felt lonely because it was the middle of the night. But this song just came to my head and I wrote it down in minutes, like literally the entire thing, had the instrumentation planned, started putting it on, on my laptop at 4 in the morning. And yeah, so there's at least, just thinking, oh, there's at least three nighttime tracks, 3 tracks on there that were written at ridiculous antisocial hours of the day. Um, but as instead of seeing it as a negative, I see it as a positive. In the middle of the night, waking up at 3 a.m. thinking, I've got a song idea, and literally running down in the dark so as not to wake up the rest of my family. Um, trying not to fall down the stairs, running to the piano and getting these ideas recorded and on paper and on my Mac, on my computer. Just yeah, it's a positive thing really for me. You can make it into a positive thing. So yeah, about at least 3 of them were written at antisocial times of the day.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of like the same way. Like I'll if something comes up and I have to work on it, or I have to like I don't do the I don't do mostly the writing down of things. Like I'll approach that tomorrow. So if it comes up, even if it's in the middle of the night, I'm probably going to move up to 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 my computer and then
Mm.
have that worked on, and then I go back and sleep. And I'm like, and then at some point, I remember I was talking to a friend of mine. We worked together, so he knows that they say I'm crazy like that. So I was
Yay,
like,
crazy.
they're
Woo.
like,
Come on,
yeah, form
carry
the
on,
tribe,
carry on.
yeah.
Yay, woo. Yeah.
So he's like, why can't you just write it down and wait tomorrow? I'm like, if I write it down and wait tomorrow, this energy won't be the same. I won't even approach it. I won't even get to it. If I
100%.
think about it, I'm approaching it right there and then, and that's it. But I can't go and think about and say, oh well, let me approach that 2 days later. It won't be the same enthusiasm. Like I won't come with the same, energy to approach it. So I can relate. I understand that, and but I think it's like the same thing for a lot of people doing who are kind of in the field we're in, because I've seen that really totally different from people who we like to call, because of the work we do, who we like to call normal people. So in my other life, if I'm doing anything that doesn't have to do with music and this, those people, they feel like, Jan, write down, plan a task, and send it ahead, and then go and approach it on that day. And I'm like, it doesn't work the same. So we have to.
Define normal.
Oh yeah. And people that do normal. When we define normal, it's
Mm.
people that do regular jobs. All right.
Yeah.
uh, and yeah, it's not the same for them. Who know that they have a schedule from eight to 4, and I'm done. I'm like, I wish it was the same for me, because I'll do this. I'll do that when I'm doing in my other life, when I'm doing that.
Mm.
But in the music side, I don't have like, oh, from 8 to 4, that, and then
No,
I'm done. I close my computer and
exactly.
end of the day. No, it doesn't work that way.
I think that's quite nice though, because then it makes things interesting. It can be more inspiring.
Yeah.
As a sufferer of ADHD, well, somebody who has ADHD, I think I managed to it can be very, very difficult, but I can kind of channel it into something good. As somebody who has ADHD, um, I think I mean, my mind is all over the place, but you kind of channel it into something good. So a regular 9 to 5 just wouldn't work with me. So I
Yeah.
think the fact that, I have my main job as a music teacher, which is very varied anyway, and then I have my time doing music, which is all very different. It changes. You can kind of work in different places. It all adds to it. It makes it more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I envy you. So because even your regular job still involves something that you like doing. So I'm, you see, you won on both fronts. So even your regular job is something that you like doing, which is
Oh, thanks. Well, you know what? I couldn't do a job that I found boring. I honestly couldn't do it. And I envy people and admire people that can, because one of the things about ADHD that if something is boring, my mind will just switch off. Whereas that's the beauty of teaching and teaching music in particular. One day, no day is the same. And there is
yeah,
this amazing ability to make things so varied. One day you've got people singing songs to you, and then you're doing ukulele, and then you're doing piano, and then you're doing a choir, and then you're doing songwriting club, and it's just so varied. And that keeps me kind of, well, it keeps me motivated, and it keeps it interesting for me as well as the children, for sure.
yeah, absolutely. If you're listening in the Extreme BPM right now, the album is out right now, and the album is called Refocus, coming in from Cat Button. Where can people follow you, and where would you send them in case they want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so um, just a bit of a warning. My Instagram isn't very normal. I do try and be a bit silly, so I apologies for that. But if you do like silly content, do feel free to join. Cat button underscore songwriter. I'm also around on TikTok as well, and Facebook, and the album is available on all streaming platforms. So it would be amazing if you could have a listen. Always interested in what people think of it as well. That's always really encouraging. So yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And we shall have some songs playing off the album today on the Extreme BPM. And always make sure you make a date with us. That is 8 p.m. East African time, which is I think 6 p.m. UK time, Tuesdays and Friday. That is when we get to play to talk to people that make the music. But Monday through Friday we have the Ajas Mix Show, which is 11 a.m. UK time, but 1 p.m. our time, East African time. And that's when we play more of the music and you get to enjoy that uninterrupted at all. So, but we also provide a playlist of all the music we just played so you can be able to check in with the musicians and follow them and add that to your playlist, all right? Until next time, absolutely nothing left for you guys on the Extreme BPM, Ijas Radio and Ijas Extra.